I'm standing here in what's left of the mountain mansion I built for my late wife, Elaine. 6 years ago, she lost her battle with ovarian cancer. In her final weeks, lying in a hospital bed with morphine clouding the pain, she sketched our dream home on scrap paper. A house perched at 7,200 feet with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the Continental Divide. She wanted salvaged timber from old barns, beams that still carried the scent of 100 winters, river rock for the fireplace, an infinity pool that looked like it was spilling into the sky. 3 days before she died, she looked at me and said, "Build it. Promise me you'll build it." I was 51, an appellate court judge, no children, suddenly no wife. So I did what she asked. For 2 years, I hunted down every piece of reclaimed cedar from a Montana barn, every river stone, every custom steel and glass panel for the atrium she called the mountain's breath. When it was finished, a $4. $2 million home in the gated community of Ridgemont Estates, 90 minutes from the state capital, I moved in. For 8 peaceful months, it felt like the promise had been kept. Then I met Vivian Pritchard, 61 years old, blonde hair sprayed into a helmet that could withstand a hurricane, always draped in turquoise jewelry, driving a white Cadillac Escalade with vanity plates that read HOA Press. HOA president for 9 straight years because no one ever dared run against her. Her husband, Garrett, a retired state trooper, handles security consulting for the association. The trouble began when I repainted the exterior trim the soft, smoky quartz gray Elaine had chosen. The architectural committee approved it in writing. 3 weeks later, Vivian appeared at my door and declared the color not approved. I showed her the email with signatures. She glanced at it like it was trash and said the committee had been mistaken. She was overriding them. I paid the $500 fine and repainted. I was still a sitting judge. I couldn't afford a public fight. That was just the opening act. Over the next 10 months, the fines arrived like clockwork. Driveway lights, excessive. Native wildflowers planted to prevent erosion, labeled unapproved landscaping. My housekeeper Lucia's 15-year-old Toyota, called a commercial vehicle. Lucia was a 40-something U.S. citizen born in El Paso, mother of 3, who had cleaned houses for years. Vivian stopped her at the gate repeatedly, demanding ID and documentation. The third time, she sent me a formal letter insisting domestic staff must park in designated service areas that didn't exist. When I called it discriminatory in writing, she replied, "I don't see color. I see violations." By month 10, I paid $34,000 of fines. Everyone documented with receipts, canceled checks, and emails proving the architectural committee had approved the work before Vivian overruled them. Then I won the governor's race. 3 weeks after inauguration, I flew to Washington for a mandatory conference. On the third morning, my phone buzzed at 6:47 a.m. Subject line, final notice, lien foreclosure and demolition authorization. For hours later, the bulldozers would start. I was 1,800 miles away. I called my lawyer from a hotel bathroom, whispering so my chief of staff wouldn't hear. He told me the truth. Even if we woke a judge, it would look like abuse of office now that I was governor. My neighbor Dale phoned 60 seconds later. "There are bulldozers at your gate." Through the line, I heard diesel engines, backup beeps, gravel crunching under treads of lane, and I had spread by hand. "Film everything," I said, "especially Vivian." The video arrived minutes later. The excavator claw punching through the atrium glass in exploding showers of light, timber beams snapping, each one tagged with Elaine's handwriting, and Vivian in her white pantsuit, arms crossed, sunglasses on. When a chunk of the infinity pool broke off and tumbled into the ravine, she smiled. Dale caught the smile. I chartered a flight home that night, landed in Denver at midnight, drove 90 minutes through darkness, and pulled up at 2 a.m. to the smell of diesel and crushed drywall. They'd been thorough, but Elaine had been smarter. 18 inches under what used to be the master bedroom floor was a fireproof safe she insisted every architect needs. Combination, our anniversary. Inside were her original sketches, material lists, notes in her precise handwriting, and beneath them, my ammunition. Every receipt, every canceled check, Every approval email Vivian later ignored. My father prosecuted criminals for 30 years. He always said the bad guys make the same mistake. They think paperwork is boring, but boring wins trials. Vivian had just handed me a trial. By 6 the next morning, the civil rights attorney Mariana Soto and land use lawyer Kurt Bellamy were walking the wreckage with me. Mariana shot 200 photos. Kurt muttered statute numbers like prayers. "This is the cleanest HOA violation I've seen in 40 years, he said. No certified mail, no hearing, demolition during a 4-hour window while the owner was out of state on official business. This is a civil rights attorney's dream and an HOA president's nightmare." News crews arrived at 8. Vivian had invited them for her victory lap. She stood in her pressed white pantsuit telling Channel 7, "No one is above the law, not even a governor." Mr. Kendrick refused to pay legitimate fines. We followed procedures to the letter. I waited until she finished, then stepped in a frame holding the stack of canceled checks. $34,000. Every fine paid. Here are the receipts. And the other $4,000. Your own architectural committee approved those projects in writing before you overruled them and fined me anyway. Kurt handed me the HOA Articles of Incorporation. The president cannot override the committee without a full board vote. Did you hold a vote? Silence. Mariana held up her phone. 18 homeowners ready to join a class action. Illegal fines, discriminatory enforcement, demolition without due process. Vivian climbed into her Escalade and roared away. Within 48 hours, she hired a Denver PR firm. Suddenly, I was the elitist hypocrite who built a monument to his ego while campaigning on humble roots. Conservative sites ran op-eds. Talk radio devoted segments to my mansion. Bots spread memes of me crying in rubble. Vivian went on a podcast, voice trembling, claiming she feared for her safety around me, that I had threatened her. Mariana's reply: "She just committed defamation. Add it to the suit." Then Garrett appeared on TV in his old state trooper uniform, technically illegal for retirees, calling the property a public nuisance with overgrown weeds and broken fencing, claiming 6 families had complained. I spent an afternoon knocking on those 6 doors. Not one had filed a complaint. One elderly widow, Iris, started crying when I asked. Vivian had shown up 3 months earlier with a pre-written complaint and said if she didn't sign, Vivian would find her over rose bushes 3 inches too tall. Iris handed me a folder of 4 years of threats and surveillance-style photos Garrett had taken of her property. "I thought when you became governor, maybe you'd fix this," she said. "Then they said you were the problem." We expanded the lawsuit. Kurt eventually obtained the HOA's financial records, my legal right as a homeowner. A forensic accountant found $340,000 in reserves. Yet last year, they spent $180,000 on questionable items, $60,000 to Garrett Security Consulting LLC with no contract or deliverables, $45,000 to Vivian's daughter's landscaping company for work that looked amateur, $75,000 fighting homeowners in court who settled just to escape. Worse, $127,000 collected from homeowners via special assessment for road resurfacing had been transferred to a Nevada LLC owned by Vivian and Garrett. The paving company, Mountain Peak Paving, had an active mechanics lien. In 6 months, they could foreclose on the clubhouse, pool, gates, everything the HOA owned collectively. Vivian hadn't demolished my house over fines. She did it because I was about to become governor and might eventually look at the books. 2 weeks before her deposition, someone broke into the construction trailer where I'd stored Elaine's surviving salvaged timbers, her design journal, her father's tool chest. Red spray, paint across the wall, go back to the Capitol. Gas station footage and credit card records placed Garrett's truck nearby. He'd bought bolt cutters and red spray paint days earlier. Rex Dunaway, ex-FBI white-collar specialist, dug deeper. Vivian had tried to buy my land 3 years running, offered $1. $2 million on property appraised at $2. $1 million. I refused. An email from 18 months earlier. Kendrick won't sell. We need to create motivation. She manufactured violations to force me out. When that failed, the election became her window. The deposition was surgical. Mariana asked about the demolition vote. Vivian claimed it was unanimous. Minutes showed only 3 of 5 board members present. 2 submitted affidavits saying they were never notified. An email surfaced. Kendrick is running for governor. We need him out. Find a reason. Vivian's face drained. Later she snapped. You people never do understand. Mariana, Latina, composed, set her pen down slowly. Excuse me. You people. Structural engineer Hector Ruiz analyzed the demolition site. Asbestos confirmed in 12 of the salvaged barn timbers. No EPA notification, no air monitoring, no containment. Vivian's brother-in-law was the contractor. She signed the work order. Criminal environmental violation. Neighbors within 200 yards, including families with young children, had been exposed. The quarterly town hall was 3 weeks away. Vivian had to preside. As a homeowner, even with the house gone, I still own the land and could attend with witnesses. We decided to present everything publicly in front of 300 neighbors, live-streamed, with press invited. The night before, Vivian emailed homeowners. Meeting for homeowners only. No guests, no media. Kurt fired back. Bylaws allow advisors and witnesses. Exclusion violates state law. She tried to postpone. Judge denied it in 10 minutes. Town hall night. 120 folding chairs filled to capacity. Vivian at the podium, reading from a script about strong reserves and rising property values. A homeowner interrupted. Defense against what? She said frivolous lawsuits from a disgruntled former resident. Kurt stood. You brought it up. Fair game. Another board member, Phyllis, rose. I was never told about the demolition vote. You told me it was an emergency. Why does the governor's attorney have an email showing you planned it 3 weeks in advance? The room erupted. I walked to the microphone. You've stated my property was demolished for failing to pay legitimate fines. How much did I allegedly owe? $38,600. And I refused despite multiple notices. Correct. Kurt handed me a binder. I'd like to enter 19 cashier's checks totaling $34,200, each cashed by the HOA within 10 business days. Packets with committee approval emails followed by Vivian's override notices were passed around. Can the president override without a full board vote? No. Lucia stood. I'm a United States citizen born in El Paso. You asked for my papers 4 times. Never asked anyone else. Silence. Then the money. Rick Delgado rose. I paved your roads 2 years ago. Invoiced $127,000. Never got paid. I have a lien. If unpaid soon, I can foreclose on the clubhouse. Gasps. Kurt. The money was collected, then transferred to a Nevada LLC owned by Vivian and Garrett Pritchard. That's embezzlement. Vivian screamed. You don't belong here. You never did. You and your people think you can just move in. Phyllis blocked the door. Emergency vote to remove you as president. Effective immediately. Hand shot up. Motion carried. Vivian collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Garrett pulled her toward the exit. She was still screaming as the Escalade disappeared into the darkness. Deputy Voss radioed for a detective. Possible financial crimes. The live stream hit 2,800 viewers. Homeowners who'd been silent for years stood up shouting their own stories. News crews burst in. Within days, the FBI executed search warrants at Vivian's house. Garrett was taken into custody at 6 a.m. Federal charges followed. Wire fraud, embezzlement, civil rights violations, witness intimidation. The EPA added criminal environmental charges for the asbestos exposure. Vivian pleaded guilty 6 months later. 8 years, no parole. Garrett got 18 months. The HOA's insurance carrier settled the consolidated civil suit. My wrongful demolition plus the class action from 26 homeowners plus Rick's lien for $1. $2 million. My share covered a smaller rebuild using Elaine's surviving timbers and left money for her architecture scholarship fund. The 26 homeowners averaged $67,000 each. Years of illegal fines refunded with interest. Rick paid off loans and gave his crew bonuses. Iris paid off her mortgage and donated to the local food bank. Ridgemont Estates changed. New board, transparent financials posted monthly. No fines over $500 without a hearing. Mandatory third-party audits. I testified before the state legislature. The Homeowner Protection Act passed. 60 days written notice before any lien or foreclosure. Mandatory mediation. Capped fines. Self-dealing by HOA officers a felony. I signed it at the clubhouse with Iris, Rick, and Lucia beside me. Iris held the pen like it was sacred. My granddaughter's going to college to study law because of what she saw here. 12 other states adopted similar laws. I rebuilt smaller, 2,400 square feet, sustainable, using as much of Elaine's original materials as possible. It isn't a monument anymore. It's home. A public hiking trail now crosses 2 protected acres. Every September we hold Mountain Community Day. Music, food trucks, kids running the property that once felt only mine but now belongs to everyone who fought. The Scholarship Fund has sent dozens of first-generation students to architecture school. One young woman from El Paso sent a thank you sketch of a small home with big windows catching light. "Your wife would have loved this," she wrote. I framed it. Vivian is in federal prison. Somewhere in Ridgemont Estates, families live without fear. Across the country, homeowners are requesting records, filing complaints, standing up. Systems only work when people demand they do. If you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare or any petty tyrant who thought they were untouchable, the fight never really ends. But damn, it feels good when the truth finally comes out.